Hey guys, Price51 here, and we're back with part 2 of my pickups. So, got done with picking up the Nintendo game, so next up I went to, that was pretty much the start of where I started looking at the flea market when I first got there. So basically on my second lap around the flea markets, I get a little bit more, nitpicking, looking for the 1 or 2 games that people are selling. So, basically I'm looking for people who aren't resellers or people who aren't there every week. You can see like they got the U-Haul truck or they got a trailer full of all this junk. They're always there every weekend. But there's also, garage sellers, people who live in the boonies who can't, get enough people to come out to the house for a garage sale, so they go to flea markets to sell their shit. So those are the people you gotta go look for. And you can just generally look at the person who's selling the booth and the items there, and you can kind of figure out who's there to sell just for that day, or people who are there every weekend trying to sell collectible stuff or stuff like that. So I found this lady, and I go to her booth. I'm just looking around trying to find like the 1 or 2 hidden games that's on her table, and sure enough I found on the ground a box that had a Genesis Model 1. Was the non-high def though. Inside the game slot was actually Sonic and Knuckles, and it was beat up. The flap on top was busted, it was missing. And there was also a game there in the case, and on top of the game system itself was a tape, and on the tape it said game system and games for $25. So, and I only saw 2 games there, so it's gonna be really hard to break up the set, but I decided to ask anyways because I really want the game and I was willing to pay a little bit extra for it too. And so I pick up the game, and I turn to the lady, I'm like, how much are you willing to sell this game separately? And she said, oh, the guy's not here, and I don't remember what he wanted for, like, the games. He didn't say anything like that. So she turns to, I guess, her daughter and son, who are like, 14 years old. And, I had the game, and I showed the game to, her, and the daughter says, oh, $5. And, because, 14-year-olds know, especially, 14-year-old girls know what the price of Genesis games are. Because, that makes sense. But anyways, $5 is actually not that bad. I just bought it, Sonic and Knuckles for $5. That was, what is even complete? Just had the box in the game. And $5 is what my max was going to be. But, I said, that's more than I wanted to pay. Which is true. It's not more I'm willing to pay, it's just more than I wanted to pay. And, after a little pause, whatever, she said, well, we take $4 for it, the mom. So I said I'd do that. So, picked it up for $4. It's Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is perfect because I just picked up Knuckles on Saturday. And it is complete. Manual's right there, and it's in good condition. The game's in pretty good condition too. It's only got one little small flaw, and that's on the top label there. You can kind of see how it's coming up a little bit up top. It's coming up off, the sticker's coming apart on top a little bit. But for $4, definitely a pickup for me, because I love Sonic, and I never played Sonic 3, so I really want to play it. And then the next thing I noticed, after I got that game, I look around, and sure enough, on the table in front of her, it's a box full of a whole bunch of loose games from the N64, some Super Nintendo, some Genesis, and some regular Nintendo games. And I can't believe I missed that on the first walkthrough. I usually look for boxes, or I look for bundles of games laying around, and somehow I missed that. So that's why I go around a second time, with a fine-tooth comb to check out for that. So I was going through the games there, and the Nintendo games were the only ones I had some interest in, really. And most of them were priced just a little bit above, what. I would say this, that for like a reseller, they're probably good prices, but they're a garage seller, so they're not, good prices really. Like there was the one that comes to the top of my head was Zelda. Zelda was there for $8. It's not a, it's not a good deal, but it's not a bad deal, completely bad deal. A lot of resellers try to sell that for like, $10+ easily. So, but she said when I was going through the game, she said, oh, these games are also negotiable too, so that's good to hear. So I pick out one game that I want, and there's no marking on it, or no price tag on it. So I hand it to her because this is kind of like a no-name game. So I hand it to her, and I'm like, how much you want for this? And she starts looking at the game, trying to find a price tag on it. And I said, there's no tag on it. So she turns to her daughter again, because she's the, the expert on games here, the 14-year-old daughter. And she says, actually before she did that, I actually said, I'll give you $2 for it. $2 for a Nintendo game. It's a pretty good edition. It's got the black case. And she turns to her daughter to get the approval, yes or no, which is, because she's the expert here. And she said, all Dad wanted, the Nintendo games were, $2 to $3. That's what he was asking for the games. Even though he had the prices on them a lot higher, $3 to $2 is what he was willing to take. So I got the game for $2. And that game is actually The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Try to get that focus for you guys. There we go. So there we got it focused now, so you can kind of see a little bit better. This game is a game I never played before. I'm really interested in playing it though. It's Adventures of Tom Sawyer, based on a book. So a game based on a book. Not too many of those, but I'm willing to try it out. Not only that, but a classic American literature video games based off. So I'm not quite sure. This could be a horrible game very easily, or it could be actually a pretty fun game to play. So I don't know. It's a kind of a no-name game that I'm wanting to review for you guys. So one last story before we continue on to some more games, and that's this reseller. It was the reseller that had the PlayStation 1 games there in the jewel cases. So I go to his booth and I'm going through the games and I find 2 games I want. So I ask him, how much you asking for your PlayStation 1 games? And before he even says a price, he's like, well, the pinball game is, and he's about to start saying why it's worth more. But then he saw I already had the games that I wanted. I already had them pinned out, and they weren't the pinball game or pinball games. I think there might have been a couple of them there. And he said, well, what games you got there? Which one you had in mind? And I show him, a Bugs Bunny and Taz time game, and a Namco Volume 3 Greatest Hits or Museum game, whatever, for PlayStation 1. Both are PlayStation 1s. They're both in the jewel case like this. Not the original case. So I put them on the table, and I said, they're not in the original case. They're in a jewel case. And then he says, $10. I'm like, $10? I literally asked him, what the $10? What the? Are you fucking mine? And he says, I haven't said. He said, I haven't said a price yet, and you're already talking about how the games aren't in the original cases. If you're gonna be like that, then it's gonna be $10. Now he's all pissed off for some reason. I'm like, all right. So I put the games back, and I look around and see if there's anything else that was decent. But honestly, he was so pissed off. I guarantee he'd probably be $10 for fucking everything else there. And I don't know. I guess he thought I was kind of Jew him out or some shit. But it was just kind of conversating, whatever. It wasn't saying give me a price and oh, well, look at this game. It's got a scratch on the back here, and this game's really common. So no, I wasn't trying to be an ass, and really haggle them. I was just, saying, these are actually loose games even though they're in a case, So, but not only that, but he gave me a high price earlier in the day for his PlayStation 2s and GameCube games. So, I had to let him know, look, this is a loose game. It's not even the original case. But he got all pissed off at me. So, you know what? Fuck you, dude. I ain't fucking buying the shit from you anymore. Could have bought some games from you, but you know what? It's not worth it. If you're gonna be an ass, guess what? You ain't getting business. That's just how it's going to be. So, that was the end of the day. I went to some Goodwills, and I hit some games, hit a game. So I didn't pick any games up, but maybe come on Sunday, we'll have some games to review that I actually saw earlier that day. But that's all I got for that day. It was such a hot day. I didn't even have the strength or the willpower to go to some more the flea markets, because it was just a hot day. Humid and hot, so let's get to the actual pickup videos for the online auction I bought. And I got 3 games here for the PlayStation 2, or PlayStation 1, and I bought these as a whole, even though there were some games that I didn't really care for because of one game. And the price was ended up being $9.29 for shipping and handling combined, everything. So that's a decent price for just the one game. One game I would have paid up to that price. But it came with some other games too, so it swings the deal. First game is NFL Game Day 99 for the PlayStation. Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. And next up, this actually looks like a kind of cool game. You know, hardcore 4x4. You know, it's not my type of game, but I'm willing to play it. But it turns out, I was just going through all the discs to make sure they're like in good condition. Turns out that's not the game. And I remember on the listing that actually did show a picture of this, and I didn't know what the game was. And then it showed the case. There's a reason why I didn't show the case, because the case doesn't go with the game. But it's actually a PlayStation 2 game, Maximo Ghost to Glory. It's a Capcom game, so you know it might be good. This is for PS2. The disc is a bit scratched up, but I think it's gonna play. You know, you can see it's not in the greatest condition in the world, but it should play. So you know that's extra bonus, I think. So basically, what I paid the whole thing for was for this game right here, and it's actually 2 games. I didn't know if it came with 2 games or it was actually 2 discs and 2 cases, but they listed as Final Fantasy Chronicle, the Final Fantasy 4 and Chrono Trigger. That's what they listed it as, and I knew it was the Greatest Hit Edition, but I didn't realize it was in one container. So basically, it's the Final Fantasy Chronicles, and I never played any of these games, and I'm especially excited to play Chrono Trigger. And as you can see, the case has got a pretty nice crack in the front of it. But whatever, you know, I'm not worried about that. What I was worried was whether it had the manual inside, and sure enough, it did. And the manual was in mint condition. Everything in here is actually in really good condition, except for the front game, not the front game, but the front crack. And the game itself, for the Final Fantasy 4, is in pretty good condition actually. I mean, it's got some scratches on there, but overall, it's actually in pretty good condition. And then the one game I'm most worried about, because I have Final Fantasy 4 for the DS, and that's Chrono Trigger, and it's got a little bit of dust on it, but it's got some scratches. But overall, it's in really good condition too. So this is totally a great score, I think, for the whole $9. $9 and like 25 cents, pretty much. Got a PlayStation 2 game, and I got the greatest hits for Final Fantasy 4 and Chrono Trigger. So can't beat that, I don't think. I mean, you could beat it price, but you know, for online auction, that's a pretty good deal, I think. So that's all I got for you guys. And again, I'm gonna tease you with this week. This weekend, there's something big going around that's gonna happen. In fact, it actually is going to happen in quite a few states. More hint for you guys. And I'm going to be part of that, and I'm going to try to get some good hauls from that. So look forward to that. I think I'm going to be doing it on maybe Thursday. Pretty sure Friday for sure. And maybe even Saturday. So look forward to that, and I'll see you next time.